Welcome to A Guide to Every Deck in Modern. Today we're looking at Bant Spirits. Bant Spirits is a tribal deck that utilizes the synergies of various blue and white spirit creatures and lords. The deck looks to set up an overwhelming board presence consisting of many spirit creatures being pumped by lords and quickly attack for lethal damage. Spirits has three things going for it over other tribal decks. 1. Most of the creatures have flying and thus are hard to block. 2. Some of its threats have flash, including Rattle Chains and Spell Queller. And 3. Many of the creatures provide protection, making removal ineffective. These include Selfless Spirit, Rattle Chains, Kira, Drogskull Captain, and to a different or lesser extent, Mausoleum Wanderer and Spell Queller. Additionally, Wanderer and Queller can stop various spells. The deck is primarily an aggro deck, but it does have interactive elements, particularly via Skyclave Apparition and Queller. The deck leans heavily on Collected Company and Aether Vial for resource advantages, and I'd value opening hands containing either card much higher than those without. An aspect of the deck that can provide advantages is that since so many cards can be flashed in, especially if you control Aether Vial, you can change what you do in response to what your opponent does, and they always have to respect the possibility that you'll cast Queller or Coco. In general though, if you have Coco, you should probably just cast it before doing anything else. Sideboarding and how to beat it. While every card in the deck contributes to the Spirits tribe, some cards are much less valuable than others. The cards I'd look to side out first depending on matchup would be Rattle Chains, Selfless Spirit, and Skyclave Apparition, as well as any fringe creatures such as Shacklegeist. Which cards to bring in varies by matchup, should generally be obvious, and the sideboard itself can be tuned to a shifting metagame, with any effect found stapled onto a spirit creature valued higher than normal. Returning to the point about protection, the deck can be a major pain in the ass for removal to deal with, especially because of Kira and Drogskull Captain. However, the deck is very susceptible to sweepers despite Selfless Spirit. Unfortunately, tribal decks in general have taken a beating in recent years and are now largely unplayable. This is due to an increase in value-generating cards such as Omnath and powerfully efficient removal like Prismatic Ending, Unholy Heat, Solitude, and especially Fury. Tribal decks are generally slower than other aggro decks and can simply no longer compete with the power of mid-range and control decks such as 4-color Blink. In order for tribal decks to get back on the map, they'll need new additions that either provide explosively fast starts or value engines, with Coco simply not being good enough by itself. Tips and tricks. Kira's ability only applies when it's already in play. You can't flash it in response to removal. Controlling 2 Drogskull Captains makes all your creatures have hexproof. Good luck removing anything at that point. Rattle Chains gives other spirits flash. If you have enough mana, you can respond with effects you wouldn't otherwise be able to, such as Selfless Spirit. You can use Coco in response to spells, but since you don't know what you're going to hit, the timing you use depends on what you're trying to do. If you want to counter the spell, cast Coco in response, aiming for Spell Queller. If you're fine letting the spell resolve as a permanent, you can cast Coco afterward, aiming for Skyclave Apparition. Glasspull Mimic, like all clones, can only enter the battlefield as a copy of something that's already there. You can't make it a copy of the second creature you Coco into. You can activate Aether Vial on upkeep to flash in a lower mana value creature before you take up its counters. If you play an instant speed bounce effect such as Otawara, you can bounce Spell Queller in response to its ETB ability, triggering its Leaves ability first and exiling the spell forever. If you play bounce effects, you can bounce the illusion tokens that Skyclave Apparition leaves behind. If you play Teferi Time Raveler and bounce Queller, the spell will remain exiled since they can't cast it due to Teferi's static ability. You can attack and wait for the opponent to respond or declare blockers, then flash in lords before damage to pump your team. I hope you've enjoyed this look at Bant Spirits. I want to thank my fellow players in the Magic community for whom sharing their experiences helps make these guides possible. You can find additional resources, such as an up-to-date deck list, in the description. If you think I left out anything important or got something wrong, please leave your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned to see what deck we look at next time.